This is Performance Theory with Mike Clark.
What did you want to do when you grew up? Well, you know what? If you're like me, you probably want to be either a policeman or a fireman. Now, here's the thing. I was a fat kid. So growing up, I didn't really have the physical ability to do that, but our guest today did. We have City of Edmonton firefighter Amiel Aarsen on the show. Amiel, with a name like Aarsen, you pretty much had to go into firefighting, didn't you? Tell us about yourself growing up.
I grew up in a small town in Irlandia. I wanted to be a cowboy when I grew up, actually.
Sweet.
Yeah, I know. In a small town. So kind of growing up, I was youngest of four. So there was my brother made me do a lot of stuff and picked up volleyball. And that was kind of my physical activity. But there really wasn't much else that I was physically active with. I really enjoyed it, though. So a lot of work and getting outside and stuff, which I really enjoyed. And then kind of the idea of us growing up was you go to school and you get a job. And so 18, I moved to the city and started going to NAIT for electronics. Did that for about, 3 years of a 2-year program. And then after that, I got a job in that field. It was electronics engineering. So it doesn't really lead to firefighting, but I kind of got bored of that job. Now, I'd worked construction in summer and really liked the team aspect of it. So that was enjoyable. I didn't realize it, but yeah, I really enjoyed working with my hands. I really enjoyed the team aspect. And so when I was working by myself as a tech, I still got to work with my hands, but I wasn't having the team side of it all. And so kind of got bored, thought I'd look for something else. And my cousin, who had done wildland, mentioned to try to do wildland firefighting. And so I applied, got in. That one I was pretty nervous about doing the physical. I was probably 180 and a string bean at 6'2". So I'd never worked out. I'd never done physical activity much before that. And so that was my first time going to the gym and getting a trainer.
So what kind of prepping did you have to do for that?
That one, they have a physical that was fairly set out in regards to you had to do a 45-minute walk with 45 pounds. Or not 45 minutes, you had to do a 5-kilometer walk with 45 pounds in 45 minutes. And then another kind of like a sprint test where you run the pump out and stuff and drag some stuff out in a certain amount of time. So I knew I had to kind of hit those parameters. And so I went to a trainer and he got me through a bunch of stuff. I really liked the gym, but as with most people, once you kind of achieve what you wanted to, you take a step back and all of a sudden it's not a priority anymore, right? But working wildland, you're working your butt off in the summer. So yeah, I did that for 5 summers. I did a summer in Australia, and then I applied for Edmonton because it was time to grow up, move on from seasonal work.
What's the most difficult part of the wildland fighting?
Oh man, honestly, the social aspect of it. You fully give up your summer, so you're not seeing people that you were friends with before until after the summer's over. You're hanging around with your crew the whole time. The work, for me, it was just like, here's your task for the day. Just get the work done. They didn't ever expect you to kill yourself trying to do this, but you just go out, you hike that line, you cut the trees, you put the fire out, and then you go home and they feed you and put you up. So there was a lot to enjoy about it, but I mean, you're also neck deep in muskeg half the time, covered in mosquitoes.
It sounds awesome.
Yeah.
How long did you do that one for? You did
that for 5 summers, and then because you got the winters off, I actually did it for about 3 months in Australia for the winter. So cool. It was a lot of fun there. Really hot.
Yeah. Did you see any super dangerous conditions when you're wildland fighting?
They're pretty cognizant of the safety aspect of it all, and so you didn't push overly hard. Like at the end of the day with wildland, it is just trees. And so there has been larger fires that have happened, like Slave Lake and Fort McMurray. But for the most part, you're going out and putting out a lightning struck tree or just working a patch of line on a bigger fire. So your safety is paramount. The biggest problem we have is falling trees, right? So we got to be aware of that. Yeah. So
what were the shifts like?
We did 15 days on, 6 off. But because it's an emergency resource, they can hold you for up to 23 days. So you can have entirely different days off all of a sudden just because you're on a campaign fire, which isn't bad because that's when you're making the overtime and actually earning the money that you're getting. So,
Did you start pretty early in the morning, or?
Actually, on a high hazard day, you'd start at 10 in the morning because that's when the fire starts picking up and burning because the day gets hotter and stuff. So then you'd be kind of on standby most days, waiting for a fire call to come in, whether it's the towers or something. And then, yeah.
So what made you want to shift to the Edmonton city firefighting?
Seasonal work. It doesn't lend itself to a long and sturdy career. So it was kind of, I didn't want to go back to electronics. And so I had a buddy who was applying, and I looked and I was like, well, I've heard it's a great job. And if it's anything like Wildland, that's where I've met my best friends from, because you're so tight with that crew. I was pretty excited at the prospect of it. And so I thought, if this is a career that I can do, why not apply and see if maybe this is somewhere I can go with it. So,
what's a physical fitness test like for firefighting?
For Edmonton, and Edmonton's the only one that I've done so far. But the physical test was there was you can do a treadmill test with VO2 max for up to 20 minutes. Then you have an hour rest, and then you do a bunch of job-oriented tasks that are timed. So you drag out a hose, you do a dummy drag, you pull a rope or like a hose back and forth, and then you do like a door breach, so you just hammer on a thing, and then you do a ladder climb, which is awesome because that's always the last one. You're pretty exhausted. And then you do a kind of a pass-fail one where you just pick some tools up, move them over, hold them on a spot, and then move them back.
My last career as personal trainer at the U of A. Not as a DJ. That was a whole nother life. But when I was working at the U of A, we actually used to help run the firefighting test. And my favorite part was the hose drag, because that hose is always nice and coiled up. And the guys would sprint, and the second it goes to full length, they get dragged back so fast. It's like hitting a brick wall.
Yeah.
And the guys who have never done it before would get pulled off their feet.
Well, that was one thing that helped me. The advantage I thought I had, which I think there's a lot of mental game in that. A lot of people fail the physical because you just mentally fail yourself. And you give up on yourself. And stuttering again. But it's hard to see, but it's also a chance for growth where you realize, do I want this? Like, this is a situation I will be in, so this is something I have to be serious about. And if you quit yourself, then it's probably not your career.
What did you find to be the most difficult part of the test?
Oh, man. The ladder climb was brutally hard. I also felt I could have done better on the VO2 max. I'm not a very cardio-intensive guy. I like squats.
Yeah. Now, what are the different regulations? Are there, or is there any different regulations, male, female, on the test?
No, the job is the same. Like, our job's not fancy. We do a lot of physical labor. And so, you want to know the person on your team is all measured to the same standard, right? That's a bit of an issue, I think, in the new department. But I also think more and more diverse people are stepping up and saying, this is something I want to do. So
I guess because, if I'm in a fire, I'm a 200-pound guy.
Yeah.
I don't care if you're male, female. I want you to be able to haul me out of the fire, right?
And it's that simple. Like, we're moving people, we're moving equipment. Like, our job is not overly complicated. I don't know what the image is to most people anymore, but I do know the image that I grew up with, like backdraft. You're like, no, we're not that.
So what's the process of getting placed at a station?
So with Edmonton, like, this is the only experience I can speak to, because there's a lot of guys who've gotten on that have applied to a bunch of different departments. So there's a difference in hiring procedure because it's all municipalities. So with Edmonton, what happens is you apply, you do an aptitude test, you do a physical test, you do an interview, and then you do a station assessment, and they'll rank you. Once they rank you, they put you into your class. Then you start at the top and say the first 16 are in the first class of the year. We need 3 classes this year, so then they just keep pulling from that list. Once you're in a class, you're training for about 2 to 3 months. You do fire training and then medical training. And then once you're done that training, you write a final test. Make sure that you got to pass everything. You write a final test, and then once you have the test, you go to your first station for 6 months. And then after that 6 months, you move to your station that you'll be stationed at for 2 to 3 years. I think they try and keep guys at a station for about 3 to 5 years, but they don't like guys to get too complacent, so they move them around.
So, where was your first station?
My first station was 15. I should know the names of these stations, but I don't. 15's on 91st or 97th Street and 51st Ave there. That was a good haul. That's a lot of industrial. So you got a lot of medical calls during the day, car accidents, and then you get fires at night because you're kind of still attached to those different places. And so my first 6 months was there. A lot of fun. Had a really good crew. It is only one pump, so that means there's only 4 guys there now, which makes it a little slower, but there's still somebody to do something with.
What are you seeing as the major differences between the stations in Edmonton? Like I believe you had said earlier that the downtown station is kind of like the money station. You're always busy.
Yeah, and that's where I'm at now. So I feel very lucky. I'm at a good point in my career where I can handle the sleepless nights where you're going the whole night. Because I don't have like a busy home life. I can give a little more to that. But yeah, Station 1, where I'm at now, is the busiest hall. I think it might even be classified somewhere in like the busiest hall in Canada as well. We get a large call volume. Really enjoy it. The difference between the stations, though, is you'll have like different auxiliary units, like a rescue or a ladder. We have a ladder at our hall now, so that means when you're on the ladder, because we rotate all our positions. So when you're on the ladder, you're doing different calls. With the rescue, you do car accidents. You have all the tools, which I really like. That was a fun one.
Jaws of Life?
Yeah. And now we have like electronic ones. Like there's some cool technologies coming out, but of course you want to kind of temper it with. You don't want to get too excited about some new tool and then not ever use it, right? So, yeah. And like there's like the newer stations, like the one over here, 27, have a tendency to be a little slower because you're not in kind of a busy area, so you'll have more medical calls and kind of outside the weird calls you get at these stations.
So when you first went to your station, what's rookie life like? Is it as bad as they portray?
I don't know. It depends on the views of the person who's getting rookied, right? Like it's very easy to just show respect and do your job. And the guys forget you're a rookie, right? It's all team. Like if you know how to be part of the team, then you're gonna be okay. And it's not like you have to be part of the team, but just embrace who you are and embrace the people that are around you because you're all trying to support each other. So there are naturally some personalities that want to pester the rookies, and there are some that just couldn't care. I would say it's not anywhere near as bad as portrayed. Like the frat hazing of the 90s is definitely a thing of the past.
Good for you.
But that's the thing too, is like that wasn't my first time being a rookie. Doing construction, same kind of thing. You want to know that the person your rookie is going to pay attention to himself and take care of himself, as well as pay attention to what's around him, right? And take care of the crew. So that I was a rookie there, so you learn to pay attention. And then I was a rookie in Wildlands, same kind of thing. Is like you're getting to know these people very intimately, so you want to know that you want to know how they react.
What's your daily routine like when you're on shift?
Yeah, okay. So our day shifts are from 7 in the morning till 5 at night. And so you'll get into the hall. You have a bit of time. Sorry, I burped there. You get into the hall. You'll have a bit of time to yourself. You relieve your guy, put his gear up, take your gear down, set up your position wherever you're at. And then at 9 o'clock we do cleanup, and then we make lunch, and then kind of the afternoon sometimes you'll work out and then get relieved. And this is all with calls in between. I remember one day my friend was trying to visit, and we literally would have 5 minutes at the hall, and then we were out again. And then while we were out, we're getting other calls as we're getting relieved and going around. So we were so busy, like I got maybe a 10-minute visit with him, and that was the most we were back at the hall. So of course that routine gets thrown out. But that's kind of the base routine of what the day-to-day is if you don't get any calls. So.
Is it usually busier at night or during the day?
Well, that's hit or miss. At night, usually it'll get busy up until about 12, and then 3 o'clock when the bars are out and people are, especially wintertime, people are getting into trouble. Then we pick up again. So there's lulls. Kind of a lot of times they're like at these outer halls. You'll get busy at supper time because people are burning their dinner and having an alarm go out, and you got to come make sure it's okay.
What's the shifts typically like?
So our Edmonton, it's usually most departments will do about a 2 days, 2 nights, 4 off. So 4 on, 4 off schedule. Where Edmonton has kind of shifted a bit of that. So we do 2 days, 2 nights, 2 off, 2 days, 2 nights, 6 off. So really enjoyable schedule. I like traveling. I like having fun going out to the mountains. So it allows me a lot of that.
What's the toughest situation that you've faced in your career so far?
So we're going to get heavy now.
Yeah.
Because of the medical calls, one of the toughest situations I've personally been in was a suicide of one of our members.
Oh, wow.
And I hadn't known him very well, but I had worked with him. And so it was just, nothing really prepares you for that. So it was kind of weird knowing that we're supposed to be there to help and not really, like, he had already passed when we got there. So the medics were very good. The police were very good, understanding. They seen what it was, and they knew him for a firefighter. And so they helped and took care of us. And we all kind of had to figure our way out of that one.
Now, is there a lot of support for you guys once you go to a bad call or you go to a call, something like that?
Yeah, that one's hard for me to comment on because, I mean, the fire department is trying their best to address like the mental health issues and the stuff that's happening, but of course you never really feel like it's enough, right?
Yeah.
That being said, we do have resources available to us to help with those kinds of things. For me, it took me a while to reach out to those resources and make sure that I was doing okay after something like that. So that's my own journey. That was my own decision to make, and I knew that.
Because we see a lot of first responders, whether they be fire, police, a lot more are starting to reach out because there's a lot higher incidence of suicide or just self-destruction because of the situations that you guys see absolutely every single day.
Yeah, and that is that mentality shift as well, that like people aren't hazing as much, people are acknowledging their vulnerabilities, and I think that's a huge step. But it is a very, very hard step to take. So it is a bit of a process behind it all. And so you want to see people get through that process healthy. Once again, like the call I responded to wasn't the only suicide of our members. We had one recently, Mark Renault, and I knew him a lot more. And so that one, I had to be aware. I had to make sure that I reached out to these different resources so that I didn't go back to the kind of what I would say a darker place previously.
Is there a lot of incidences of guys maybe not going to that extreme, but just burning out and needing to take time off?
Not that we kind of acknowledge, but I mean, we get good holidays, and there has been a time, and we're allowed to trade shifts. And so there has been a time where I've been like, you know what, I need to trade 2 blocks and take some time to myself and go on a trip and relax. And it helps. A lot more people are more self-aware, so that burnout isn't happening as often or as hard. It's just little burnouts where you're like, hey, you know what, 6 off was enough. I need to make sure I reset. And some people are like, well, I'll trade a block, or my holidays are coming up, and I'll make sure I take care of myself.
So let's switch away from this tough issue right now. Go to something a little happier. You spoke about holidays. I seem to remember you popping up on the Chive as the banana suit guy. Do you want to go? Do you want to go through that?
Oh yeah, sure. No, that was because I went to Australia. I visited some friends there, and one friend wanted I was there for Halloween, so we brought their banana costumes. I don't even own these things. Excuse me. So I brought their banana costumes, and we wore them for Halloween. They traveled around Australia with me, so that was fun. Took some pictures with it. It's a fun thing to do. Wear a banana costume. You can't be mad when you're wearing a banana costume. And so I brought them back to Canada, and then actually my first holidays of the fire department, I was able to trade a few shifts and make it to a wedding in India. And so I did a big round-the-world trip with it all. That was awesome. So I stopped in Amsterdam, I stopped in Jordan, I stopped in India, in Thailand, and in Indonesia. And then, of course, every stop along the way, I just decided to try and take some banana photos. So I got a picture of me in front of the treasury with the banana costume on, and you'd be surprised how few people in a crowd notice this if you just stand there and watch them. So I got a picture in Amsterdam, obviously in India at my buddy's wedding, in Thailand at a few places, and then in Indonesia I was surfing, so I got a picture of me surfing with it. I totally cut this dude off just to get the photo, and I felt like a dumbass. But yeah, and then got the photo, took the banana costume off and left. But and then they got pretty gross after that trip, so they've since been disposed of in a safe fashion.
How did it pop up on the Chive?
Man, that was weird. So I was tagging, this one girl I was impressed with. I wanted to impress her. So I was tagging her at every photo. And I randomly go on Facebook, and there was 2 inboxes at the time. And I was like, what's this other one? And it was about 3 months previous. Some guy had contacted me. And it sounded like one of those scams where you're like, is this like an auto thing? What's going on? So I read it, and it says like, hey, seen you did a trip and was wondering, I'm an editor on a website or a contributor to this website and think my readers would like it. And I was like, what's this? And so I did. I emailed back. I'm like, this is weird. I clicked on the link, and he had mentioned a friend had told him about my photos. And I was like, okay, so I did the whole Facebook creep search it. And that was one of the only common friend we had was the friend that I'd tagged. So Facebook creeping and kind of gotten this all the way back around. So it looked legit. So I emailed the guy, and he emailed back, yeah. And then, so we had a back and forth. And he's like, yeah, it'll be released like on the Chive. And this was kind of when the Chive was in a bit of a heyday. And I was like, cool. He's like, 1 o'clock or whatever. And of course, my mom logs on. Oh, hey, Amiel. I'm like, yay. My mom commented on the Chive article.
What's your favorite place to travel to?
Oh, man. I've been to Australia twice. I really enjoyed it. It's an easy place to travel. It is a little more expensive. Indonesia's got good surf. I love surfing now. I picked that up as of late. And I just, because, I mean, you're a big snowboarder. Yeah. And for me as well, and it just kind of was a natural transition when I'm traveling to looking at surfing. I'm trying to think, like, Nicaragua is beautiful and cheap. Well, now that, of course, the political situation might be different. I really enjoyed Australia, and any place I can surf. I went to Japan snowboarding. That was pretty unreal. Such a different culture, such a cool place, and the snow was awesome.
Nice. A lot of people don't associate snowboarding with Japan.
Yeah, I went there with my brother, and we've snowboarded a lot of our lives. And so, I mean, you know as well, like in the late 90s when people were all of a sudden making articles about Japan, it was always that deep powder that no one knew about. And finally, me and my brother decided, we're like, we're going to Japan to go snowboarding.
I can't pass this up. How did you prep for the calendar shoot?
Oh well, I got this personal trainer. Now, he was phenomenal, let me tell you.
I bet.
Well, that was...
How much fun was that?
That was...
Not the training, because I know what the training was like.
That was a lot of fun. I mean, like, the whole... But it's just like anything else. It's like working out. You have an end goal in mind, and you achieve it, and you enjoy the work that happened, because the end goal... It's not like the end goal was so worth it, but if you enjoyed the journey, then you're having a ball.
How many copies did your mom buy?
I think my mom probably got one or two. I might have one kicking around, just saying.
Blowing up.
Yeah.
Life size on your wall.
Oh, that old thing? Oh, no, don't worry about that. Made the calendar one year. You may not be able to tell now, but I used to be in the
It's
calendar.
fueled by beer now, but...
Yeah, exactly.
So where are you traveling to next?
Oh, shoot. I'd love to see South America. I got a friend in Tanzania. I haven't seen Africa at all. A guy I went to Nate with, actually, so I haven't seen him for over 10 years. Europe was always kind of an appeal just because it's so easy to travel and so beautiful. It's right now, I think I might try and see a lot of North America, too. I got a motorbike, and so in the summertime with 6 off, I can make it a long distance before I have to turn around and come back.
Yeah. Are there any ongoing physical fitness requirements that you need to do year to year?
No, there's no retesting anymore unless you really injure yourself. Then they might be concerned about your ability to perform. Then they might be able to. I don't know if there is. As far as it is, it's just the test to get in. And then it's kind of like, hey, man, you're on a crew with guys who've got Grey Cup rings, and your captain has been rowing competitively for years, and you're just like, well, I can't be the weakest link here.
And he's 65 and kicking your ass.
Exactly, right? Like, these guys have kids that are in the NHL. They've spent time in the NHL themselves, and so you're like, these people are all performing at a high level, and you don't want to be the weakest link. As well as they have a vast array of knowledge on this subject that you can explore, right?
What kind of rewards or feelings do you get after a successful call?
It's you know what, I actually just really enjoy the busyness aspect of it, because you're contributing. One of the more rewarding feelings that I've gotten from the training and stuff was actually not even on the department. It was at a this is where the hippie in me comes out. So I was in Amsterdam smoking weed with a Serbian dude at a cafe, and this guy collapses. He just goes down at the bar, and everyone just stepped back, and I just remember looking at the scene and being like, nobody here knows what to do. Excuse me? So I just remember looking at that scene and thinking, no one here knows what to do. And I stepped up and went over, and I recognized him, started asking the questions. It was kind of auto-engage. And that felt really good, like being knowing what to do, or feeling like you know what to do, and being confident enough to respond. And that's a really good feeling.
Are there any situations that you've come into or that you can think of where you would have to disobey a direct order?
Yeah, they do mention that a lot too. It's never like you definitely need to disobey a direct order, but they're very cognizant of your own personal safety, and they make sure that you are aware of that as well. And because that a lot of times is something that people just miss. They're like, hey, go do this. And you're like, I can't because of the other situation that you may have just missed. Now that's not like disobeying a direct order, but that is taking into account a little bit more that someone may have missed, right?
As Fire Station 27, if you can hear it in the background, goes to work. What's the biggest issue facing fire services today?
Man, that's a tough one. That mentality shift that I talked about, I think it's not a challenge, but it is it's kind of a slow outcome. That's hard. That's hard to see it kind of go slow. You do want to see something like this. You're like, hey, I think we have a solution here. You want to see it unfold right away, right? I mean, you could always get political and say, hey, government funding might be an issue because of what's happening.
But honestly, is it a problem? Like, are you guys short staff?
No. Our chief has done a very great job of dealing with the politics of it all and being able to translate that to something that works really good right now. But who's to say, right? Like, it's so that is kind of something we're always aware of, and especially when like teachers and nurses are getting hit, that we're just like, hey, we've got to make sure that we take care of ourselves. So we got to help these people and help those people. So we are concerned about the funding issue right now, given the cuts that are happening. But I would say like the biggest challenge is addressing the mental health in a safe way, and knowing that we're coming up with a solution, not just kind of wavering on a problem.
What suggestions do you have for improving our fire prevention and public education programs?
I can't really speak to that. I'm just in the suppression side of it. There is a full department for prevention, and they're doing jobs like they upgrade the boxes that hold the keys. They make sure the keys are there. They're the ones that actually hand out the fines for like fire obstructions and stuff, fire exit obstructions. So I can't really speak to that. I don't have any experience with them. That is an avenue of a career that you can take if that's something that interests you.
Do you go out to the schools and educate them, or is that?
The prevention will set that up, and they'll have like Station 27 go out to the schools and show the kids the trucks, make the families and the communities familiar with who and what we are doing and how we're helping, so that the kids, especially in a fire, you don't want a kid to run away from a firefighter.
What kind of changes do you expect to see in the next 5 years within Edmonton or within your station? Like, are they always upgrading equipment, or do you see things on a bigger scale?
They're constantly looking at equipment. Like I said, there's a process to it all, so you never see it as quick as you feel you want to. They're constantly upgrading equipment, looking at new alternatives. 5 years, I'd say Edmonton downtown's growing, so who's to say what the new buildings are going to require for suppression? Like, we had to get a stage 2 pump for the Stantec Tower because it's so high. So we had to get a pumper truck. Not one, we're getting multiple pumper trucks that are capable of pushing water that high. So, new equipment's gonna roll in probably. The one thing I'm kind of excited for is like our training school got a revamp, and so we're getting more training more effectively, and that's always exciting because regardless of what you think of the job, like learning something new and being better at something is always gonna be a good thing.
Now, we are in Edmonton, so being a firefighter in the wintertime, how much does that suck?
But that's when we get our calls. It sucks, but it's
like minus 40 and you're putting out a house fire.
I was minus 35 babysitting a traffic accident on the Henday once because it was just so slippery. And so, you're sitting there for that was like 3 or 4 hours on just a miserable night. It's brutal. It's part of the territory. We got good equipment, so you can always warm up in the trucks if you really need.
Is there different outfits for summer and winter?
No, we have our bunker gear just because the insulation factor, whether it's hot or cold, is there, right? So, but my first fire was Lendramato, and when that burned down, it was minus 30. So you're getting covered in ice, you're getting caked down because you're dealing with water, and then too the challenges of getting water moving in cold weather, keeping water moving. And there's a lot of tricks like leaving a nozzle open or draining into a storm drain so that you can keep that water from freezing up. But that's an incredible challenge in the wintertime, is to be aware of these. Yeah, like every little bit of coupling is going to get water in it, so you got to make sure things are tight, running smooth, and that's what our training is for.
What's the funniest thing that you guys have had to do?
Oh, as firefighters? I mean, there's a stereotypical one. I was talking to a recruit, and he said his first call ever on the floor was a cat in a tree.
Sweet.
I mean, you go into some houses that have weird scenarios in people's lives, you get to kind of see a bit of an example, but funny. That's the people you work with. I love that. You can get the whole table laughing about a story you've had or something. It's that I think is a lot of fun.
And we know there's a lot of bad drivers out there.
No.
So what are you supposed to do when you see the reds behind you?
Please pull over to the right and stop if you're not in an intersection, because we sometimes need to turn right. So we got to make sure that we're not going to turn into you because you're going the same speed as us. So pull over to the right. Don't panic. We will get around you, or you will find a way that's safe to go. So just make sure your safety is one, and then pull over to the right and stop, please.
I see so many bad drivers out there. The other day, there's an ambulance behind me. I pulled over to the right, stopped, and honest to God, the guy that was behind me just slowed down right in the middle of the road.
Yeah, we've had people like hammer on their brakes right in the middle of the road because they don't see us coming up until it's too late. That's a scary one.
Yeah, your truck outweighs our car or truck by just a little bit.
And it's got a bunch of water on it, so it has a tendency to want to move forward.
Yeah. Have you guys had to punch through a window yet to get to, like a car window to get to hydrant?
Yeah, like after becoming a firefighter, seeing people park there has changed my opinion. No, I haven't yet, but I wouldn't pause.
Just waiting?
Yeah, I wouldn't pause. It wouldn't pause me one bit if someone had parked in front of a hydrant too. Because even if we run the high vol, which is our hydrant supply, under a vehicle, it'll lift it up so you can't drive. So yeah, just don't ever park in front of a hydrant unless you want to put the people around you at risk. That's really what it boils down to.
Knowing what you know about firefighting, would you do everything again?
Oh yeah. It's a tough job. It really is a tough job at times, and but yeah, the reward, the people that you're around, like Wildland, absolutely would do that again for sure. But then you always remember the good stuff, like the crews that you were with, the good times that you've had, and then the connections that you made. You forget that you're neck deep in muskeg with mosquitoes eating the rest of your skin. But no, I wouldn't change. I like the journey I've been on. I really enjoy what the fire department has been able to give me, and what I've been able to give the fire department. I feel it's definitely made me a better person. So I'm excited what the future holds.
If somebody's interested in joining the fire department, what's the best route for them to take?
There's really kind of only one route. Applications open in March, and you write up your resume and drop it in and go from there. And if there's a lot, like I said, there's a lot of steps. So there's your resume, you drop in, you write an aptitude test, you do a physical, and then you do an interview, and you just make sure that you're as prepared as you can for each step of the way. Like they're not gonna blow you out of the water if you're unsure. Ask someone if they know a firefighter. Most firefighters are more than happy to talk to you about what it takes to apply, because we love seeing that passion come up behind us and seeing that drive, and then having these people achieve these big goals is cool. So yeah, drop in your resume and start preparing for the next step.
Great. Now, if somebody wants to ask you a question, do you have any social media handles that they can reach out to you?
Yeah, sure. Try and reach me on Instagram at Amiel_Patrick_Harris.
Oh, I forgot all about that.
Yeah.
How did I?
This gentleman on this end mayhaps look a little bit like Neil Patrick Harris.
Yes, so, just a tiny bit.
And so that's my online handle. Yeah, Amiel Patrick Harris. You shoot me an email. I can't promise I'll respond, but AAARSEN@gmail. And if you can find me on Facebook, by all means. Fire me a question. Can't promise I'll respond. I'm not huge on social media these days, but
a little busy fighting fires.
I'm just living life
and traveling.
And that, folks, is the life of a firefighter. You've got traveling, you've got banana suits, and you have Neil Patrick Harris. Thanks for joining us on the podcast this week. If you've got any guests that you want me to interview, you want me to reach out to them, feel free to contact me at any of my social media handles at MikeClarkLife. I will see you next time. Thanks, guys, for listening. Please share this podcast and make sure you subscribed, because a bunch of you are listening, haven't passed it on to your friends. Find me on social media at MikeClarkLife on all major platforms, or visit MikeClarkLife.com.